remember the time before Facebook became important and before YouTube became important? If you were interested in conspiracies or any sort of issue like that, you would just go on a place like Conspiracy Central and you would browse through these files that were offered, and then you could pick something that interested you and you could download it with a peer-to-peer file sharing program, or an app as we say nowadays. Remember those times if you were one of those people who were interested in conspiracies and you used file sharing? So there was nothing to stop you from sharing these files. You were the server. Your computer connected to the internet was the server. So somebody else downloaded a file from your computer and also partially from other people's computer who had the same file. And you could download stuff from somebody else's computer. That was a simple thing. That was a simple and easy thing. There was no censorship really. There was no there was no company there. There was no huge company who was restricting what could be said and what not. And that was a good thing. That worked flawlessly, and that kind of thing would work even better today because we have faster internet connections and better video compression, and so we can share better files faster than ever before. And people visited websites, you know, your favorite websites and forums that you liked, and you downloaded stuff from servers, and that stuff worked. And then really YouTube and Facebook became a thing. Facebook was nothing too different from a standard internet forum. It was just like a big, regular, old internet forum. People could create an account, people could post stuff, people could, you know, discuss some stuff. Nothing was really new. And YouTube, they offered free video hosting for some weird reason. You know, this is something needs to be looked into. Every other competitor needed to charge money, and this meant 10, 20, 30 cents for a viewer hour. So that's 1 hour of footage that somebody is viewing that would cost you 30 cents. And imagine if you have, you know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of viewing hours, that could get expensive. But YouTube offered free video hosting, limitless. I mean, for a long time you were kind of limited to 15-minute long videos, but of course you could create playlists, meaning you could just split your longer video into segments or 15 minutes or less, and then have them play one after the other. So there was really no true limit. You could post anything. And there was little moderation. I mean, jihadis posted their stuff. I mean, even fairly recently, I just did a test. I looked for a jihadi snuff video for an execution video, and I found that it was posted by somebody from ISIS, and showed people getting shot in a public town square. That was hosted on YouTube for free, and some of that stuff was even monetized. You know, so you would see a car company commercial or insurance commercial right before your jihadi, execution video. People posted all kinds of copyrighted stuff on YouTube, and it was just a Wild West type situation. And it was free, so that's why people went there, right? And now we're in this stupid situation that these social media giants are so powerful, and everybody is on these platforms because they're so powerful. But why are they powerful? Because everybody's on it. It's kind of like, what was there first, the chicken or the egg? And so people got real lazy. You know, it was easier to just look something up on YouTube than to find a torrent file and do this peer-to-peer file sharing. right? You just had to click a bit more, and you had to download the file. You had to wait for the file to be downloaded. And YouTube was so convenient. You just have a player, and you click start, and it would immediately play for you. And you couldn't directly download it. So you didn't really have the file. You just could watch the file. And people got real lazy and greedy, right? Of course, you get monetized on YouTube, and you get almost free advertising on YouTube and Facebook. Of course, people got addicted to this stuff. And then when these companies got their market dominance, that's when the censorship started. And you're dealing with an empire here. You're dealing with the Western Anglo-American Empire, a superpower, and they control everything. They control all the politics, and they control the industry, everybody important. And so they can attack you or limit your freedoms in many different ways. You know, they can do it with laws and government agencies, or they can use private companies, or so-called private companies, these market vehicles, to target you, to limit your freedom. And so the First Amendment is pretty strong in America, meaning you can say almost anything, and your speech is still protected. But these companies right now, or the YouTubes and the Facebooks and all that, they don't use the limitations or the freedom of the First Amendment, freedom of speech. They have their user terms. They have their community guidelines, and they're much more strict. So currently in the situation, if you want the complete freedom of the First Amendment, almost nobody will hear you. You can say what you want, but nobody is really going to hear you. If you want to be heard, you got to go to these social media giants, and then you have to abide by their user policy, and they're much, much more strict. And you have no real control. If they delete you, they delete you. You know, there's nothing you can really do against that. They do whatever they want. And it's pointless to... It's almost pointless to beg and to demand something from these companies. I mean, I think the Electronic Frontier Foundation has made a suggestion that these companies should follow a few basic rules. They have to publish how much they censor. They have to tell you exactly why they censor you, and they have to give you a realistic option to defend yourselves against the decision, to appeal that decision. But, and of course, it's important and it's right to complain that these companies are too powerful and they're hooked into the establishment and all that, and they're restricting people right now how they see fit. That's okay. That's fine to complain about that, and that's important. But don't forget the bigger picture. Do not forget the bigger picture, and do not lose sight of what matters, and don't turn this into another left versus right issue. Okay, so. Google and Apple and Facebook and such, they present themselves as left-wing, and they're hiring left-wing people for important positions, and now their censorship seems to favor the left. But don't think these are true leftist entities, right? I mean, if you follow the traces, if you follow that sort of establishment, the true American superpower establishment, they have their own rules. They just care about power. It's not left or right for them. Okay, so they're all about power. So you can't just turn this into a left versus right issue. And the only thing that's going to work is to go back to websites and forums and real platforms and file sharing. And this free-for-all mentality on the internet is now a big problem. So everything is for free on the web, but basically nothing has any value. And now we saw the sort of conservative social network Gab. They want now to benefit from this purge on YouTube and Facebook. They want to get all the users to hop on board, but they try to host their social network with Microsoft Azure. And then we saw postings on Gab that somebody posted that Jews had to be kept like livestock and just crazy stuff like that. And then Microsoft says, well, this is violating our private user terms. You know, we have clauses and conditions against hate speech, so we can kick you out. So people have to be aware. People out there, the audience, they have to pay for quality, and they should read good books to be able to recognize what is quality and what is not quality. that is very, very important. And then we had of course, the further developments with the censorship of InfoWars, or the kicking out of InfoWars. I've already made a video about that. But here's kind of an update and some more perspective. The platform Vimeo also now banned InfoWars, as I think Twitter is now the only big platform that's still hosting InfoWars. But at the same time, we hear reports that millions of people subscribed to the InfoWars newsletter, within 48 hours of his YouTube ban. And more people are visiting the InfoWars websites and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, if Alex Jones and InfoWars, if they keep playing this left versus right game, if they keep supporting the Trump administration no matter what, no matter how many insiders get sent to the Supreme Court and how many CFR people are in Trump's administration, and no matter how many wars the Trump administration is going to launch, if InfoWars sticks to that course, then you might see some rich patrons from shady circles. You might see some rich patrons financing InfoWars in the future. I said this before. This could be from the CNP, the Council for National Policy. Some people, hooked into that network with millions of dollars. They could pay Alex Jones to keep going. They could pay InfoWars to keep going like this. The Trump organization, I mean, they could launch their big television network after Trump leaves office, and there could be a lucrative relationship with InfoWars and so on and so forth. You need to keep that in mind. And there might be another big video platform. There could be a new right-wing video platform, big competition to YouTube, and this is going to be more division of the population. So half of the population, they will watch the sanitized snowflake YouTube, and the other half is going to watch the crazy right-wing tube where everybody sounds the same and nobody gets to think any differently. And you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of that. And also, when we're talking solidarity, right? I mean, I heavily criticize Alex Jones, and I talked about how he violated these community guidelines, clearly violated. If he harasses these Sandy Hook parents, if he attacks lesbians and transgender people the way he did, and lots of other stuff. Of course, these social media companies, these social media giants, they have it fairly easy. They could say, he violated the rules. Now we can kick him. And lots of people in the population will agree with that. So Alex Jones made it real easy for these companies to ban him. And now he's the big martyr. He's the big, he wants a congressional hearing. He wants to be, an even bigger star. And he wants to be the embodiment of free speech and all that. And even media people who hate Alex Jones, Glenn Beck or Ben Shapiro and all these people, people who have been targeted by Alex Jones's hate rages, targeted by Alex Jones's campaigns, directing his audience to hate Glenn Beck and to hate Ben Shapiro. Even those media figures who hate Alex Jones, they still showed solidarity and said, well, it's bad that these companies are so powerful and they can enforce bans like this. And of course, people in general who want free speech and who are critical of things, and people, they demand solidarity, okay? But what about a severe lack of solidarity? What about a severe lack of solidarity? In the following example, when the Russian dissident Boris Nemtsov was killed, murdered near the Kremlin, what did InfoWars and other places like it, what did they report? Did they show empathy? Were they outraged? Did they show solidarity? No. InfoWars reported that probably the CIA killed Nemtsov. The CIA killed Nemtsov in Russia to make Putin look bad. And they also had a comment or an article by Tony Cartalucci. Nemtsov was painted as this bad collaborator of the U.S. the U.S. elite, just because Nemtsov had some contacts to American foundations. And at the same time, InfoWars has no problem if so-called conservatives hook up with the Russians. Alex went on Russian shows. He invited these Russian occultists like Dugin on his show. And so if a Russian dissident like Boris Nemtsov gets murdered, InfoWars shrugged it off and said, "Oh well, we didn't like him anyway, and the CIA must have killed him to make our Saint Putin look bad. And Nemtsov was a troublemaker, and now he's gone." That was the reaction of InfoWars. But when Alex Jones' social media presence gets deleted, Alex is crying and bitching and painting himself as this big martyr, as this, public enemy number one and biggest enemy of the establishment and so forth. He claims that this is the end of free speech and this is the end of liberty because he gets banned on YouTube and Facebook. But he didn't, apparently InfoWars didn't care that in Russia a dissident like Nemtsov got murdered, killed in the street. And it's not just Boris Nemtsov. It is so many Russians that got falsely imprisoned, that got harassed, threatened, murdered, killed. And in the past, InfoWars and Alex Jones would report on that. They would report on Anna Politkovskaya and Alexander Litvinenko and these things, and they were very critical of the Putin regime. But nowadays, no, Putin is hailed as this George Washington type, in the spirit of 1776, who's such a Christian conservative, and Putin is our role model, and Russia is our role model now, even though it's just a terrible regime over there. It directly grew out of communism. It was a bunch of KGB guys fighting for control over the follow-up structure of the Russian Empire. And mafia style, a bunch of people killed each other, and now we have this gaggle of people in Russia at the top. It's a terrible regime. It's in no way a role model. There's no freedom over there. Absolutely zero. If you complain, you get harassed. You get beaten up. Your career gets sabotaged. Your family members get threatened. You get imprisoned. You get tortured in prison. And if you're blogging, if you're a blogger, you're surveilled. If you speak out, your blog is going to be shut down. You can't publish books that the government doesn't like. You can't be on the radio. You can't be on regular television. You can't do anything to exercise your free speech in Russia. And if you still try to do free speech in Russia, you will also be branded a traitor. You will be branded a collaborator of the CIA, and you get accused of preparing some sort of color revolution in Russia. You're going to be branded an enemy of the state, an enemy of the people. So this is Alex Jones's twisted sense of solidarity, and his idea of free speech. So he promotes the Russian regime, but he shows no solidarity with Boris Nemtsov. But when he gets deleted on Facebook and YouTube, he's bitching and crying. And this is a big thing. This is a big issue. This is not just something that we have to accept or tolerate, right? If Alex Jones promotes the Russian regime like that, and if this is the way, he's going forward here. So, we'll see how this continues. We'll, of course, monitor the situation, and we will continue to build our presence in the English-speaking world. I mean, I've been around for a while in the German sphere. You can visit our website. It's eng.recenter.com. You can also find the links in the description below. You can find us on Patreon. You can contact me directly. We have, of course, our YouTube channel and so on and so forth. But we also have options, and we want people to visit the website. We want people to reach us through many different ways, and we'll be the first ones to promote peer-to-peer file sharing again, to make that a big thing again. You know, it's just stop begging these stupid companies, stop begging these social media giants, and don't demand that they let people break their rules and tolerate it if people break their silly rules. And also think about radicalism. You know, it's I understand people get angry, so do I, but emotions are not going to give you a clear picture. Okay, so if you see somebody who is just plainly hating against certain groups, maybe you should consider the downsides of that and not promote anything that tickles your fancy or that plays into your anger. You know, we're all subjects in a huge empire. And there's 3 big empires, 3 superpowers now in the world. And we're all subjects in one of these empires. And we have to find people who are reasonable. We have to find people we can work with. We have to stick together and do that professionally. We have to learn screening methods, how to judge other people to see if they're dangerous or not. You know, we can use psychology for that. And we can also learn the intelligence game by picking the right books, real quality books, to learn the intelligence game and to protect ourselves against espionage and intelligence operations, and also to play the game ourselves, you know, to protect certain information, and also to make professional analysis, and then sharing that analysis with the world, with everybody else. So even this censorship issue, even this current debate on social media censorship, even that is turned into a primitive left versus right issue. Okay, this is turned into a primitive left versus right issue, and we can't just remain on that level and talk about these things on that level. If you enjoyed this video, please comment down below, subscribe to our channel, and support us on Patreon.